Welcome to my first game devlog. I'm a beginner solo developer and this is my first time making a 3D game. I'll show you some of the biggest mistakes I've made so far and how I'm planning to fix them in the future. This game started as a project to practice 3D modeling for games with a couple of friends. I didn't record much of the early development of this, so I'll give you a brief summary of what happened while showing some of the current game footage. The game is a simple 2.5D platformer game about a barbarian who needs to escape a cave that he has been captured in. The main goal of this small project is to explore 3D game dev and 3D asset creation, so the scope of this game will be kept very small. The player controller is a very important step that can make or break a game. For this game, I needed the movement to feel very responsive and instantaneous, like most 2D platformer games. To achieve that, I used a mix of physical forces and manual speed control. One of the main problems I faced was whether to use 3D or 2D physics. I originally chose to use 3D physics and lock in the Z-axis, but soon after I changed it to 2D because I thought it would be more performant and it already had a one-way platformer component that is very common in these types of platformer games. But that might have been a big mistake. Now, rotating 3D objects with 2D colliders can give a very weird behavior. And there were a few more problems later on. But I guess I'll leave those problems for later now. Having the basic player movement done, it was now time to start to get some 3D models ready. That's when I got the main player character and some enemy models made. I also made an attempt to do an enemy model, but the quality of it is still not very good. Here's a comparison of my 3D and my friends. After the models, now comes the animation. I used Mixamo to get some animations for the characters. But that's when things started to get confusing. Should I use Unity's humanoid rig type? What is brute motion? Why is the imported Mixamo animation getting its position and directions all weird? After a while trying to figure out what any of those means, I decided to keep things simple. I won't be using root motion, and I will keep the original directions from the imports, which are not the default option, and I had to change the options manually for all the animations. But in the end, the result was quite okay. Next was the AI. It's a very simple AI. All the enemies have an AI sensor class that shoots a ray to detect what is in front of them and whether if there is a ground that they can walk on. And based on the enemy, they will decide what to do. As the project grew and the code became more complex, I didn't like how the AI state machines and the animations were interacting with each other. Basically, there was so much extra stuff to make the animations work correct that the code was getting very confusing. But I didn't know what to do about that yet, so I went on to doing on other things to clear my head a bit. I experimented with the new UI toolkit to make the menus. I played with the special effects and shaders. And at the end I found out the ragdoll physics were quite fun to play with. But as I was using 2D physics, if I wanted the ragdoll to work properly, the map now had to have both 2D and 3D colliders, which was not great at all. I then went on making small features that I thought would be useful for the game later. I made a system for switches and buttons, a simple dialogue system, destructible doors and objects, traps, moving platforms, and even a dynamic map loader, which thinking about it now, it was probably not needed for a game of this size. However, one big problem. Up until this point I have not started making the game map yet, or made a proper beta system for it. I still need to decide on what the map should look like and make the models for it. Because I was delaying this too much, I decided to clear my head a bit and started a new game project from scratch. That way I could effectively learn what I did wrong first and try to understand the problems that kept me from going on. I took about a month off to make this full game from start to finish. In the end the code was a lot cleaner, and I solved several of the problems that got me confused at first. And finally here we are now, back on this project. I will be properly starting the devlog about this platformer project from now on. This is supposed to be a small project with a very limited scope to ensure that it can be finished somewhat fast before I start some more ambitious project. And the next time will be the real start of this devlog. Thank you for joining me here, I hope to see you again, and until next time.